What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update today, and some concrete news coming through today. First and foremost, starting off with Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. Paul O'Keefe saying that Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg has interest from 2 foreign clubs. Tottenham are opening to selling him for the right price, and the midfielder is also open to leaving. He went on to say that Atletico Madrid are one of the clubs seriously interested in Hojbjerg, and there is a German club, but it's an unnamed German club at this time. And Sammy Mockwell says that Atletico Madrid have open talks with Tottenham over a move from Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. The player is fully open to the opportunity to join the La Liga side, and I kind of feel like he'll just fit like a glove there.
Yeah, I think he's definitely an Atletico Madrid player. I think Simeone will love him. I think he'll really fit in well into their central midfield. I think for us, 2 years left in his contract, 27 years of age, with Tottenham hopefully moving to a more attacking kind of style next season. Does he have the ability to play that 6 and cover? And cover the amount of ground that that is required, and without maybe as much help as he's had before. Look, there are question marks about that. I do think he's a limited player, but I do think he's a good player, and I do think maybe in the short term we will miss him, to be honest. That leadership ability, and also he's an all-rounded player. He's good on the ball and he's good off the ball, but I don't think he's great on or off the ball either. He's just good in both aspects. So I am happy that we're open to business, and I think if we do get good money for him, I think we can definitely upgrade on him for sure, and I think that's probably the way to go. And yes, it might hurt us short term, but I think long term will benefit us.
Yeah, as much as I agree with you about he's a limited midfielder, it's the thing that you said before about leadership which worries me the most, because the more leaders that leave this club, there's just no lead. There might be young players coming through that could potentially be leaders one day, but in terms of the short term, in terms of next season, who's going to be the players that can really grab the team by the scruff of the neck and lead by example on the pitch? We're running out of them, to be honest. Lloris is leaving. Hojbjerg was one of them. He's potentially leaving. And you're looking at the likes of players like Ollie Skip, who's joined the leadership group. He's nowhere near ready to take up a role like that yet. Harry Kane has 1 year left in his contract. So, I mean, where are all the leaders in this squad? That's what I'm really worried about next season. As much as we can play attacking football, when the going gets tough, who's going to be the player there to really lead by example?
Yeah, that is a fair concern, and there's not going to be an easy answer. We have players who are captains for their country even without Lloris and Hojbjerg. You got Son, you got Kane, who are both captains for their country. You got Romero, who can be a leader at the back. Obviously, when you talk about leadership and you talk about who's gonna, there's no one who really invokes someone like Roy Keane or Brian Robson, anything like that. But I think the game's moved on a bit from those kind of, not that they're not important, but Odegaard is captain for Arsenal. He's really stepped up in that front. There's no reason why we can't have a player who can step up in a similar way in their own right. And leaders, yes, leadership gets. You need characters like that, but also players can develop those characteristics once that pressure is on them and once they're given that responsibility. And I do think we have good there are some characters in the dressing room potentially who can step up in that case, and I think it's about giving them that opportunity. And as I say, in the short term, I think you're probably right, we are going to suffer for it, but I think it's probably worth it for the long-term game.
All right, so that leaves Hojbjerg. I mean, Atletico Madrid have open talks apparently with Tottenham for Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg, and if that happens, I'm hoping that we're going to get a really good attacking number 8 that will come into the team. Or do you think it will be more of a number 6 that comes in?
Yeah, I'm undecided what they're going to go for. I think we probably need a number 6 more, but I think a number 8 as well. I mean, it depends what he wants to do in Ndombele, to be honest. I wonder it also depends, I guess, what kind of fee we're going to get for Hojbjerg. I would imagine it's going to be at least 30 million.
To be fair, I think we can probably get 30 million for Amrabat. I would love for Hojbjerg to go out of the team and maybe an Amrabat to come in and sit in that 6 role.
Yeah, that also wouldn't be a bad alternative as well.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Harry Kane now, as Christian Falk says that Daniel Levy is really angry at Bayern Munich for going behind his back and agreeing personal terms with Harry Kane. Levy now wants to make Bayern bleed to get Kane, and he is willing to reject even 100 million euros. Ornstein says that it has been to his understanding that Tottenham will try and negotiate a new contract for Harry Kane, even if it goes into next season, with the hope that Ange Postecoglou can bring an upturn in fortunes, and that might be looking better, and the club's trajectory may be looking positive, and they may be challenging for trophies. And Kane, who is a Tottenham fan, would like nothing more than to win trophies at Spurs, and that might entice him to sign a new contract. And Dan KP says that Harry Kane will hold crunch talks with Daniel Levy and Ange Postecoglou next week, with the club still hoping to persuade the England captain to sign a massive new contract. And, we're hearing that the contract was north of £400,000 a week.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think if you're not going to convince him of anything less, because if he moves to a bigger team, or a different team, I should say, that's what he's going to be demanding.
That's the highest in the Premier League, by the way. De Bruyne at the moment is the highest in the Premier League with 400k.
Yeah, and I think he's well within rights to demand. He's up there with the best players in the league, so he's well within his rights to be demanding that kind of money, in my opinion. If he moves on a free, they're going to be offering him that kind of money. So if Spurs are serious about convincing him to stay, then he has to be paid in what is in comparable terms to the best players in the league, and I think that's represents that. But I don't think he's going to be signing anytime soon. He's definitely not going to be signing this summer, in my opinion. If it is going to happen, it will happen near the end. It will happen probably at the end of next season. That's when he'll make a decision, or unless things are going really well after 6 months, then he's convinced. But obviously that's going to be a very unlikely situation. Time is going to tell. I'm glad that they are making a big contract offer and they are not giving up on it and want to convince him to stay as unlikely as it is. But we've still got a lot of convincing to do, and just because we have an attacking manager, and just because we made a couple of good signings, and just because we offered him a good contract, isn't going to be enough just yet to satiate his hunger for trophies. And that's really the crux of the issue. We need to make him believe, not that we're serious about keeping him, we need to make him believe that we are serious about challenging for trophies. And if that's not going to happen in the near future, then he ain't going to sign.
Yeah. And to make him think that we are serious, then that's why we should be getting all three of those defenders that we were talking about, the Tapsobers, the Van der Vens and the Tosins, as well as other players to come in as well. But I do give credit to the board and to the club for trying to make him the highest paid player in the Premier League, because it's only what he deserves at the end of the day.
It's the only way you're going to go about convincing him, is by doing something like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about Manor Solomon now. Some interesting quotes from the Shakhtar CEO, Sergi Palkin. He says, "We are sure Tottenham executives understand that Shakhtar invested significant money in the Solomon transfer. Investment that the Ukrainian club in our difficult position simply cannot afford to lose. We hope that we have a meeting with Tottenham representatives on the eve of our friendly match, and in good faith we will find a solution to the Manor Solomon issue. The solution should satisfy both sides." And then Ali Gold saying that Solomon's medical at Tottenham was not currently planned for today, and that was backed up by Darren Diala as well, who says that contrary to reports, the medical was never booked for today. So what do you make out of the quotes from Sergi Palkin? Because we got the here we go. It seemed like everything was agreed, and they're saying there's still issues to be ironed out.
Well, from their side I don't think there's much they can do, but he's saying in good faith they want to come to some sort of agreement. And I understand that, because it's no fault of their own. They've done nothing wrong.
Has Levy ever done anything in good faith?
Definitely not. Football's there's no morals in football. That's
what he's going to say is we just gave you this friendly. What more do you want?
Yeah, well, but all the proceeds of the friendly are going to the Ukraine fund. They're not going to Shakhtar. So it doesn't really help them as much as hard as it is. That's the reality. So they'll probably feel they're getting absolutely screwed over, which they are. The reality is the FIFA clause, which has been extended this summer, and because Solomon only has a year left on his contract, he's pretty much going for a free. Actually, he's got 1 year left, so he'll essentially be going for free this summer because the clause is enacted for an extra year. And this is a player they signed for decent money from the Israeli league. Ukraine aren't exactly a league, flush with cash. They can't just go spending money willy-nilly and write it off like Premier League clubs do. It's a difficult situation for them. So they'll want some sort of return, especially as they're losing the player. Especially as they're losing the player through no fault of their own. And it must be, and morally, this obviously isn't a fantastic situation for them, and for Tottenham to be taking him on a free, and with leaving Shakhtar empty-handed with no recourse. I feel for them. But at the end of the day, Tottenham are just exploiting the rule. Yeah, it is exploiting. Morally, it's probably not the right thing to do, but football's football. There are no morals in football. And if we didn't take him on a free, someone else would. If we really want him, then it's we can't just not take him for that reason, because someone else will take him, and then you're just left with nothing. So I understand Shakhtar's position. It's a difficult one. I would like to see Tottenham do a gesture of goodwill of some sort. I don't think that friendly is enough. I'd probably like to even give some sort of compensation to Shakhtar. Maybe not as much as the amount they pay. I think they paid like €6 million or something like that. I don't think you have to do that, but something. I don't know what would look like, but I don't see them doing it.
I think it's a stupid rule, to be honest, the way that UEFA have done this. I don't know if it's FIFA or UEFA, but whoever made this ruling, I think it's completely wrong, to be honest. Like, why punish the Ukrainian sides just because they're embroiled in this war? I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. And as much as, they should be protecting the players and letting the players get out of Ukraine as easy as possible, I think that at least they should put in the rule that some sort of compensation package should be given to the club, because it is unfair. It's a really big disadvantage to a club that is already losing so much money. So, I mean, it is a bit of a disgrace, isn't it?
Absolute disgrace that they're in this situation. I feel for them. I really do. It's not Tottenham's fault, obviously, and they're just taking advantage of it, but I do feel for Shakhtar being in this situation, and when they're losing one of their best players on a free through no fault of their own, there's nothing they can do about it.
I bet Chelsea would have wished they waited a year to get Mudryk.
Yeah, maybe.
6 months.
Literally.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Ivan Perisic. Demasio says that Ivan Perisic is close to returning to Croatia with Hajek split. He should terminate his contract with Tottenham soon in order to complete the move. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah,
you would have thought they'll talk to him going back to Inter Milan or other. I still think he's got a lot to give, to be honest. He had a good World Cup. He got quite a lot of assists for Tottenham last season. So I actually think he's still got quite a bit to give at the top level, but maybe he just feels like now's the time to go back home to Croatia, a bit of a homecoming for him, and see how his career in that way. But I still think he's clearly got a bit of some legs still left in him in terms of ability to play at the top level. Obviously, he's definitely past his best. We know that. In terms of his ability to defend and things like that, that's been completely diminished. He's clearly still has quality when it comes to getting crossed in the box, set pieces, things like that. But if he's going to terminate his contract, that is a nice thing to do, I guess, if that's going to be the end result. Get the wages off the bill. And we saw Willian did that, wasn't he, when he was at Arsenal? He terminated his own contract to go back to Brazil before obviously returning to England. But I think it makes sense.
He probably just couldn't be asked with having to deal with Daniel Levy and trying to get money and all this stuff. You know what? Let me just cancel this, forget all the malarkey, and let me just go to where I want to go.
He spoke to Eriksen and Modric probably about how difficult it was for them to leave Tottenham in that similar situation. So I think it makes sense. In terms of him having a place in the team next season, I don't really see a place for him. Definitely not a left back.
Do you see a play maybe as a squad option coming off the bench, something like that, to give us a bit of quality later on in games?
Maybe, but I'd rather have a younger player, a younger winger in that position, to be honest. I think his ability to take people on is diminished as well, to be honest.
I mean, the only quality I see in Ivan Perisic now is his set pieces, really. That's it, pretty much. So if that's all you're going to give, I mean, it's not enough to go to a big club anymore.
No, he needs to give a bit more than that. I think his crossing, when he makes a yard for himself, is still pretty strong, even from open play. But
takes him a while to make that yard for himself, though.
Yeah, he did have a good end to the season under Mason, I felt. He had a couple of good games. I remember at Anfield, he played really well.
Didn't he come out? Wasn't he out the team the most of the games under Mason?
At home against Man United, he played really well. At Anfield, he played really well. So he did have a few good games at the end of last season, but yeah, last few games he didn't play. So I think it makes sense. He's 34. Look, it's been nice knowing him, nice him being here, but at the end of the day, didn't quite cut it at his age anymore.
Yeah. And last but not least, let's talk about Max Kilman, Corriere dello Sport, saying that Napoli reportedly feel Wolves 40 million asking price for Max Kilman is excessive. Tottenham are also said to be interested but are looking for a discount to sign Kilman this summer. Jay Percy says that Tottenham are admirers of Kilman. However, Wolves have opened talks with Matt Kilman over a lucrative new contract after rejecting a £30 million bid from Napoli. Napoli are expected to make a new offer for Kilman in the next few days, but Wolves are reluctant to sell him regardless of the need to raise money to comply with FFP.
I like Kilman. I think he would be a good fit for us, actually. I do prefer the other two centre-backs from Germany were after Tapsoba and Van de Ven, especially because they're younger as well, and I think they're playing at a high level. But I do think Kilman has high potential. I really like him. I think he's been good for Wolves. I think he's actually a good kind of centre-back to partner Romero as well. But if the money they're talking about, you get the other two centre-backs for Germany for a similar price. So it does make sense to pay more just because he's a Premier League defender, in my opinion. I think you go for the better one. So I would say if we can't get the others, go for him, but it doesn't make sense because the others are more expensive, are cheaper. So why would we go for him if we can't get the others? It doesn't make sense. So I don't see it ever happening, but I don't think he's a bad defender.
Yeah, I mean, if it does come to it and Wolves at some point can't get any other players out the door and they do need to sell for FFP, maybe it is a situation or an opportunity that we can revisit maybe later on in the window.
Yeah, potentially. There's already been talks of they've rejected a 30 million.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they're probably expecting the money to come from elsewhere, and if the money doesn't come from elsewhere for one reason or another, they might have to be forced to sell him at some point.
Yeah. But it depends what kind of fee. If they're rejecting 30 million now, then they're still forced to sell. They might feel like they can get that 30 million. And if it's 30 million, then you might as well go for someone else. Yeah,
so we're going to get Van de Ven almost looks like for about 30 million. Tapsoba's looking like 50 million. If you're looking at Aguehi, you're looking at double that, probably about 60 million. So, I mean, maybe he does represent good value.
I'd rather him than Longley, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, there you have it. That is our Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding any of the news stories we brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.